Welcome to Read by Robin. This week for Passover, we will be reading Miriam's Cup, a Passover story, written by Fran Manushkin and illustrated by Bob Dacey. As is explained in the author's note at the rear of the book, for those that are not aware, the Passover holiday lasts for 8 days and 8 nights. On the first and second nights, families and friends gather together to hold the ceremonial dinner and service called the Seder. During the Seder, the participants reenact the drama of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, their flight from slavery to freedom. This book will explain that story. I should say it will tell that story in a slightly different light than most sources do. Every spring, Passover arrives with a tumult and flurry, such a clanging of pots and a sweeping of rooms. In cities and towns all over the world, many a house is turned upside down. At the Pinsky home, Miriam and her brother Elijah always help with the preparations. Every year, before the Seder, Papa reminds Elijah, "Don't forget to polish Elijah's cup." Elijah never forgets. He's so proud to be named after the great prophet. Well, this year, Mama had a surprise for Miriam. She gave her a box wrapped in paper as golden as sunlight. "Before you open your gift," Mama said, "I want to tell you about Miriam, the prophet you are named for." "This is no time for a story," Papa groaned. "Our guests will be here soon." "This story cannot wait," Mama insisted, and here is how she began. Every Passover, we tell the story of how God freed our ancestors from slavery. Well, one of these ancestors was a brave and clever girl named Miriam. She lived in Egypt with her mother and father and her brother Aaron, and oh, their lives were so hard. In those days, the Egyptian Pharaoh forced the Israelites to make bricks for his cities. Each night, Miriam's father, Amram, came home so caked with mud she could hardly recognize him. Miriam would bring her papa warm water to wash the mud away and sing him soothing songs. Miriam dearly loved to sing, for it was her way of praising God. One day, the cruel Pharaoh decided there were too many Israelite slaves. He feared that someday they would rise up against him, so he decreed that all their boy babies would be drowned in the river. When Miriam's father heard this, he told his wife, "Yocheved, we must divorce each other. Then we will have no more sons for Pharaoh to kill." And so Miriam's parents parted. The other Israelite men followed Amram's lead, and they divorced their wives too. "Papa," Miriam said boldly, "your action is worse than Pharaoh's. He wants to kill boys, but you are declaring no girls will be born either." "That is true," agreed Amram sadly. "You are a good person," Miriam said in a strong voice. "God will honor your decrees and punish those who would harm you. Papa, you must remarry Mama. She is going to give birth to a child who will set our people free." Although Miriam was only 6 years old, her words impressed her father so much that he did remarry her mother. All the other slaves followed his lead, and they remarried too. How joyfully Miriam danced around her parents' wedding canopy, singing songs to the bride and groom. Many months later, a baby boy was born, and the house filled with radiant light. Amram kissed his daughter and said, "Miriam, your prophecy is coming true." But Miriam's mother, Yocheved, knew the child's life was in danger, for Pharaoh was still drowning every Israelite baby boy. "I will place my son in the Nile as Pharaoh ordered," she decided, "but he shall not drown." She wove a sturdy ark to hold him and placed it in the bulrushes where the Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe. "She has a kind face," Yocheved said. "Surely she will not let him drown." "I will watch over my brother," Miriam promised, and she hid herself behind the tall reeds. Soon enough, the princess came to bathe, and God chose that moment to make the child cry. The princess took pity on him and said, "I know you are a Hebrew child, but I will not let you die as my father decreed. I will raise you as my son, but I need a Hebrew nursemaid to feed you." "I can find you a nursemaid," called Miriam, rushing out of her hiding place, and she brought back her own mother. "Miriam," Yocheved whispered, cradling her son once more, "you are a true blessing to us." The Pharaoh's daughter named the baby Moses and raised him in great comfort inside the palace. Meanwhile, Moses' sister Miriam and his brother Aaron grew up amid great suffering, toiling in the fields and sleeping on the hard, stony ground. One day, Moses came upon an Egyptian overseer beating a Hebrew slave. While trying to protect the slave, Moses killed the overseer. This so angered Pharaoh that he ordered Moses' death. And so Moses fled from Egypt for 40 years. Still, Miriam never lost her faith in God, and she kept everyone's spirits up with her joyful songs. "I know God is watching over us," Miriam sang. And she was right. God did see how the people suffered, and God told Moses, "Go back to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go." Moses did as God ordered, but Pharaoh sneered at Moses. "I am God here. I will do no such thing." On that day, God sent down the first plague, turning the Nile River to blood. Oh, how it stank of dying fish! But Pharaoh still refused to let the Israelites go. So God sent down more plagues. Thousands of frogs filled the Egyptians' bed and feeding bowls. Lice and wild beasts afflicted them, and pestilence. Boils covered their bodies and hail pounded down from the sky. Still, Pharaoh would not let the Israelites go. Then God sent the most terrible plague of all. Every firstborn of the Egyptians was slain. The Israelites did not die, for God ordered them to mark their doorposts and lintels with blood. The angel of death saw these marks and knew to pass over their homes. Finally, Pharaoh understood the power of God. He told Moses, "Take your people away this night." The Israelites were forced to leave so quickly their bread dough had no time to rise, so they carried it in kneading bowls on their shoulders. "We must take our drums too," Miriam told the women. "God is performing miracles for us. Let us give thanks with our joyful songs." That night, the Jewish people began their journey out of slavery. Thousands of families marched in a long line, stopping only when they reached the shore of the Red Sea. Suddenly, over the rush of the waves, they heard the sound of thundering hooves. "Pharaoh has changed his mind," the people cried. "He is sending his horses to kill us." Quickly, God commanded Moses, "Raise your staff over the water." Moses obeyed, and God made the waters rise up and part. 2 shining walls of water formed, making the seabed a dry path to walk on. The Israelites hurried across. "Pursue them," Pharaoh ordered his soldiers, and the soldiers drove their chariots into the sea. As soon as the Israelites were safely on the other side, God told Moses, "Raise your staff again." When he did, God brought the waters crashing down, and Pharaoh's army was drowned. As the Israelites witnessed God's awesome power, they declared, "We must sing God a song of gratitude." Moses led the men in song, and Miriam led the women. She sang, "Sing to God, for God is high. The horse and rider God is cast into the sea." In praise of God, Miriam and the women danced, filling the air with the sound of their timbrels and drums. "Our people are free," Miriam's father told her. "Your great prophecy has come true." Every year at Passover, we tell the story of our deliverance. As we remember our ancestors, we should also remember Miriam's faith and courage, how she convinced her father to remarry her mother, how she watched over Moses in the bulrushes, and how she led all the women as they sang the Song of the Sea. Indeed, God remembered Miriam. In her honor, God created a well of clear spring water. Before the Israelites entered the Promised Land, they wandered in the desert for 40 years, and wherever Miriam went, her well would follow. When the people were parched with thirst, they had only to raise their staffs and chant, "Spring up, O well!" and the water gushed forth, shooting up high as pillars. The sweet fresh water sustained their lives. Oh, never was there such a wondrous well. "And so," concluded Mama, "that is how your namesake Miriam the prophet played her part in the great Passover story." Little Miriam smiled with pleasure. "Where is Miriam's well now?" "In Israel. Where else?" Mama said. "Now you may open your gift." The family gathered around the table as Miriam untied the ribbon and opened the box. Inside she found a sparkling crystal goblet. "This is Miriam's cup," said Mama. "Every year we will place it on our Passover table so we may honor her." As Miriam filled the goblet with water, Papa told Mama, "That is an important story. I'm glad you told it." During the Seder, everyone sang a song about the prophet Miriam. As they sang, Miriam Pinsky gazed at Miriam's cup, hoping the prophet would come and sip some water. It is very likely that she did, For the brave and joyful spirit of the prophet Miriam is surely at every Seder. I would like to thank Harley for providing me with this book and suggesting that I read it and post it in time for Passover, which is March 23rd. Thank you for reading. You will not be able to comment because this is marked as children's content, but you can like the video and subscribe to my channel.